Hello and welcome to the Feeding Innovation Podcast by AgScape. My name is Jordan Sloggett. I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager for AgScape, as well as the host of this podcast. For today, our very first episode of the show, I am joined by Tristan Hertzog. Tristan is a chef and educator from Pembroke, Ontario. In our conversation today, Tristan talks about how he incorporates lessons about local food and farming into the teaching kitchen, and about why he thinks staying connected to food and agriculture is an essential part of being a chef. And with that short introduction out of the way, let's jump right into the interview with Tristan. Thanks a lot for joining me today, Tristan. Really appreciate it. Now, I understand you've worked in the food industry for a number of years, over 18 years. Can you tell me a little bit about your move into education?
Absolutely. I think the main key to my move into education was slowly but surely through the years of my career. It kind of eventually evolved into me working in more kind of media style kitchens or teaching kitchens in the industry itself already. And, always having those questions coming in and that high engagement is almost just as addictive as the rush of service. So that kind of all of a sudden became a focal point. And from there, it kind of, to be completely honest, luck of the draw, I ended up working with some great people and they had brought me in to the high school here to do a few demos. And from there, it kind of worked out well. And the previous teacher retired and here I am. But it was kind of a slow progression, definitely going in that direction throughout my career, if that makes sense. It was always something I really enjoyed having, like I say, that engagement factor of not just being hidden in the back in a kitchen cooking and not really, and being able to answer those questions or see those kind of reactions when people taste something new or exciting or, they're definitely intrigued about something. Being able to see that and answer those correct questions directly and instantly is a whole nother level, I think.
Oh yeah, that direct connection, I'm sure, is a lot more impactful than, hearing so-and-so loved the food or so-and-so had a good connection.
Yeah.
Like you get to be in the moment for it.
Absolutely.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about the program that is at the school that you're teaching at? I understand that you have a really interesting synergy between a garden and a greenhouse and the teaching kitchen.
So again, I was extremely lucky to fall into such an amazing program built by amazing people before me. I'd love to be able to take credit, but it's, I think, a program that's been built over years and years and many very kind of motivated, inspirational people. We have approximately 600 square foot greenhouse. And then we also have, again, approximately about a 1,000 square foot garden. So essentially we have full on greenhouse programs that move into an outdoor gardening program. Then those students are able to kind of take my course. So it's almost this full perfect circle of working in the greenhouse and playing with aeroponics and some of the vertical farming towers that we have going and stuff like that. And then it moves them outside into, kind of the nitty gritty, getting messy and putting a little back into it and that out in the garden, directly back into the kitchen where the same kids who planted that, that product maybe 3 to 6 months earlier are actually out there picking it now and processing it in the kitchen. So they're able to basically take a full journey through, any number of products into the final cooked stage of, enjoying it at that point. But, they're able to not only kind of feel and feel that sweat, but appreciate the products on a different level, I feel.
What an incredible opportunity to have such a closed loop like that.
Absolutely.
There aren't many careers that will let you see every aspect of the food system like that, let alone like a high school program that can do that.
Yeah. So that was one of the main draws for me coming in and taking this job was I've just never seen such an incredible program for this level. So like you say, for high school kids to be able to, kind of have the same kind of closed loop that I've been able to have in some of the, highest end restaurants across the country, having that available for a 16-year-old is mind blowing to me. It's just, I think it's the next step, hopefully for education.
So what kinds of foods are you growing in the garden and in the greenhouses?
Oh boy. Almost anything you can imagine, honestly. We do a massive section of tomatoes, but every year the garden changes. And that's another thing that I think is really exciting and neat and important is kind of the idea of permaculture. So the idea that we're constantly adjusting on what's going to grow best with each other, in terms of what is the natural habitat and what's going to make something flourish without, human intervention kind of thing. So kind of being able to incorporate all those things in is it just, like I say, I'm so excited about it
it's really interesting too that I imagine once the food becomes ingredients in the food that the students are preparing, that probably has a feedback then again back at what they're planting for the next year, because they're saying like, oh, these tomatoes are great, could we try a different variety,
Exactly,
some peppers or something would be great. And like
exactly. Or we find there was, I believe, 2 years ago or so, we pulled upwards of 1,800 pounds of tomatoes off of our school garden. So, we were loving it. We were in tomato heaven, but, at a certain point, how much is too much? So, that year we ended up, we run a whole preserving program as well, canning program.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a whole pantry kind of designed as a little makeshift, what would we call it? I guess we'd call it kind of our little community grocery store, if you want to call it that. Nothing has a cost, but essentially you can come in and pick and choose whatever you need at home. And, there's such a mass of this product coming out of the garden that we're able to actually preserve it now and offer it to, our school community in whatever avenue they may need it. So I think that's kind of another social responsibility aspect that the kids are learning. Obviously we've adjusted now and we don't plant as many tomatoes, but we did find that there was a need to have, some food flowing through the school. And we were able to do that just, basically with the snap of our fingers, because we had such a high output. The next year we had a bad year, and then we're a quarter of that in tomatoes. So then we're kind of, adjusting again. So it's constantly adjusting from, like you say, peppers to tomatoes to cucumbers to. We do have a lot of native species out there, so ground cherries and stuff that are, you'll actually go out and find kind of in the woods around here in the Ottawa Valley. We can have planted out there and, actually do a breakdown and walk through and discuss when kids find this out in the wild or something that, there is relevance to it. And it's an important aspect of your health or nature or whatever it may be. But we're able to kind of have more of an education style garden as well going, which I think is another unique kind of aspect to it, right? Not only is it producing a ton of food, but it's set up in a way that we can actually teach from it.
That's really interesting. Is it a completely different class then that is doing the garden maintenance and the greenhouse maintenance?
Yeah, so there are multiple classes. Now, my cooking class, maybe not so much my baking class. So I run a professional cooking and a professional baking class, but essentially, maybe not so much the baking class, like I say, but the cooking class certainly spends, upwards of at least a month per class actually out in the garden. And we kind of, tend to the garden as well. We're not so much on the planting aspect. That's certainly a different course. We do have like a greenhouse course. We also have a high skills. I don't know if you're familiar, but in the province, there's something called specialist high skills majors courses. It's kind of a little add-on that you can basically sign up for. And it kind of hyper-focuses a little more on different industries. I run a hospitality and tourism one, but we also run a food processing specialist high skills program, which is run by another one of the teachers who kind of leads up the garden as well. And it's basically hyper-focused on the greenhouse and garden program. So yeah, they're taking multiple courses through multiple teachers under one kind of large umbrella, I guess you would say, in terms of the whole kind of food business. There's many different avenues, right? You don't just get into the food business and cook, right? You can go in and there's a job basically for anything you're interested in the food business, to be completely honest, right? So it opens up those avenues to see.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like you were saying, giving students a taste of just pun not intended, but a taste of the incredible variety of careers. And I think, as we're learning, modern careers are constantly shifting, constantly adapting and changing. It's no longer can people expect to graduate, get a career, work it until they retire. Getting a bit of everything like that is a really interesting opportunity. I imagine the students get a real kick out of this, but I also imagine you get a lot of really good feedback from the parents because they're seeing a program that they couldn't even have imagined happening when they were in school.
Yeah, when we do the first walkthroughs for kind of any of our juniors coming in, it's always a fun spot to kind of take them and show them through the greenhouse, and then show them the garden outside, and then down into the culinary lab here. Because right next to us, we also have a working restaurant. So the culinary classes themselves, I mean, outside of COVID times, we've kind of had to shut that whole restaurant down at this point. But outside of COVID times, we also have a full working restaurant for hire that businesses in the community can hire as, a boardroom or whatever that may be. And so we're actually able to teach, the full service aspect from, just hot service in the kitchen all the way to actual, dining service, tableside service. We have all of the, we're doing napkin folds and everything. I mean, it's a real special program. So yeah, that's always a fun little walk with parents and stuff on realizing that, oh, there's a full bore commercial kitchen down here that my 16-year-old has full access to. Like it's a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah, that's a really good opportunity. Do you know, was the program modeled after another Canadian school, or was it?
Honestly, I'm not even certain. I do know the program. I mean, in terms of our high skills, that like our hospitality and tourism specialist high skills program has been in this school for 14 years already. So I mean, the program itself, before we even applied it and took on another program, was running incredibly. So I mean, I'm honestly not sure where kind of the inspiration or that came from. There's one name that comes to mind, and I'd love to poke it out there, but Miss Wanda Hiltz is one of the kind of forefronts of who built this program, and I love to plug her name everywhere, and I'm sure she just hates it, but but she is definitely. I mean, I'm a firm believer that this has probably come a lot from her personal inspiration.
Oh, kudos to Wanda for being an early champion.
There you go,
then.
exactly. Yeah, let's embarrass her as much as we can.
So just shifting gears into just about your connection with ingredients and local food in general, how would you say that your talents as a chef has improved by being better connected to the production of your ingredients?
Well, I mean, hugely. I don't think there's a way you could say it wouldn't be affected in a positive way. I mean, in between moving from large scale resorts to, I also own kind of a small personal chef business that hyper focuses on the Ottawa Valley. So no products are used other than the Ottawa Valley. So I've kind of been living and breathing it for quite a while, but getting into having this much access is, I mean, like I say, there's no way that it couldn't positively affect even myself as a person, right? I mean, you're constantly learning things when you're in kind of in tune with nature as much as you could say you were. I think that there's growth there no matter what, whether you're growing on an educational aspect or a career aspect or a personal level. I think having that much access and kind of ability to touch, feel, and kind of grow with the products is exceptional.
Yeah, definitely. Do any impactful moments come to mind about, or impactful moments you've had in the classroom and connecting with students about farming?
Every single day, honestly. I don't know. I mean, I myself have been extremely lucky. Every single student I get has a passion towards it, which I think is I don't know. It almost makes it too easy for me, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
They're into it. They're engaged. They're excited about all of it. So honestly, every single day is an impactful moment for myself. And typically, a lot of the students we're discovering together, I guess is kind of the best way to put it. In terms of any standouts, I mean, we have tons, but I always love having kind of the special ed class in, because that kind of sense of wonder and kind of excitement about the products is tenfold, and it's just a different level of appreciation, I guess you should say. Those moments always really stand out to me, of just kind of the purity of just food. I think it's a pretty special thing.
Must be very motivating as an educator
Always.
To have that sort of passion in your class just radiating out to you.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I'm pretty lucky as an educator. I think I fall into an amazing program with great products and great students, and an amazing school. It makes it pretty easy for me to do my job, right? And then we're not just doing our job; we're constantly progressing every day because all of those pieces are in place. So I mean, it's almost like an ideal spot for kind of progression, I guess.
What was your relationship to food and agriculture growing up?
I grew up in small town Saskatchewan, so I'm very much aware and kind of, grew up with wheat fields around me and the canola and all that. But, my grandparents always had, a huge garden at the cottage. And, those are some of my most fondest memories are, out with grandpa picking peas off the plants and, just spending the day in the garden. And so, I mean, it's been throughout my life a massive part, I guess you'd say. And, kind of working that directly into, I've got 2 small kids now, we've got a huge garden at home. We've got free range chickens that kind of just roam the yard. Like it's one of those things that I wanted to make sure my kids got to experience as well. So, I mean, clearly it had a massive impact on me growing up.
So you've been lucky enough to have this lifelong connection to food and agriculture. Have you had any experiences in your professional life of colleagues of other chefs who didn't have that connection and maybe were kind of removed from the ingredients? And, what's your take on that?
That's an interesting question, just because I would say, I mean, it's a lot of work to be able to equip, especially when you're talking about kind of large scale resorts and stuff. It's extremely difficult to equip them with, something that hyper focuses on local or, being able to meet every single farmer. Sometimes that's just not possible. And I think there is a portion of the industry that almost makes that not possible, because the idea of being a chef is just constantly being busy. And I think you lose that, you lose being able to find those connections to the food through the people who grow them, because you're just so busy being a chef. I'm a firm believer, and I preach this in the classroom, that as a chef, it's not your job to manipulate products. It's your job to find the right ones. If you find the right product, there shouldn't be a heck of a lot of manipulation needed. So if you're needing to manipulate a product a bunch for the sake of making it taste good, it's probably not the right product for your business. So, I mean, I feel like it's as simple as that. But, obviously, like I say, with the industry and kind of that idea that being busy all the time is what's necessary, you lose that. So I think it's a little bit of, there's probably a lot out there that haven't had that experience because they just haven't slowed down enough.
Yeah, I mean, and also logistically, it's also probably harder for
it's a nightmare, I think.
Chef that lives in downtown Toronto, doesn't have access to a car. They can go to farmers markets, they can do what they can, but
there's only so much you can do, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was interesting what you were saying about how taste is made with the ingredients and not with what you do to manipulate the ingredients.
Yeah.
Would you say that then taste is grown? Taste isn't made in the kitchen?
I would 100%, yes. So I am one of those people who believes in terroir. I truly, I think that the location it's grown, and even, going down into those kind of subjective ideas of like, did he put his full love and blood, sweat and tears into this? Absolutely. I think you can tell the difference. But again, that maybe I'm just out there.
What was the term you just used? Terroir? Is that what you called it?
Terroir, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Could we expand on that?
The idea that a certain product will have very distinct characteristics based on the location it was grown. You can even hyper-focus that down to like macro climates, right? And I did a lot more of this with my sommelier diploma.
I was going to say, I think I remember this term. I took a viticulture course at the University of Guelph as part of my bachelor program there. And I know of course, that's huge in the winemaking world, because they'll say that, a slope of a valley or something just does something to the production of the grapes there that you can't recreate in any other way other than to grow grapes in that region.
Yeah, and I think if you're going to believe in it in kind of the wine world, then I don't know why you wouldn't give it some credit in terms of fruits, vegetables, even proteins for that matter, in my opinion. Yeah.
What would an Ontario that was better informed about food and farming look like to you? And what kind of positives do you think that might mean for the food system and to our farmers?
I think one of the main things, and actually, this has kind of recently come up in our class a lot, is the idea of eating seasonally, and why and how, and the whole we can take it all the way back to, the first settlers coming over, learning how to eat seasonally and stuff from the indigenous, and how the kind of colonization of our diet has completely changed, what our bodies are craving and when they're craving and why they're craving it. And I think, going back to eating seasonally, I think it's just such an incredible idea. And, to eat seasonally would hyper focus on those areas and those farmers they're already there. They're already kind of moving it along. I think it's more of a natural cycle, in my opinion. And I could see, I don't see why it wouldn't better any community, let alone a whole province or a whole country.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. That would be quite the shift. Right now, we're a culture that eats depending on the holiday. So, what we eat for the Super Bowl, what we eat for Thanksgiving,
wants and likes over what your body actually needs, right? I think those are very big things.
So, Tristan, you had booked one of our teacher ambassador lessons that AgScape offers to Ontario educators for free. Do you want to just talk about, as an educator, what did you get out of that experience for your class, and what did your students get out of it?
My students got, I guess the best way to put it is they got a bit of kind of almost like a you're doing the right thing, you're going along. It was a great confidence builder for them, based on the fact that it was other people supporting what they believe in.
So reinforced positive reinforcement for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's why I cook for a living there, right? Not an English teacher, but yeah, reinforcing kind of the ideas and stuff that we're trying to teach here is massive, right? To be able to have an outside source who's looked at as an educational platform, to be able to bring that into the classroom definitely reinforced all of the beliefs that we're teaching here. And it's just basically like a little stepladder on everything, right? It's just we're taking it up to another level. So I mean, it's really important to be able to get those outside perspectives that kind of either they're going to reinforce what you're teaching or they're going to contradict. And either way, you're going to get a good balance of conversation out of it. And students are going to leave being able to have a better educated opinion on maybe all these things they're learning, or what they just learned from that day from the AgScape lesson.
Well, as a marketer, I don't think I could ask for a better endorsement for programs that are so. Thanks for that on behalf of both of myself and my colleagues that help run that program.
No, it was fantastic. We did the local and the food security, and
right.
And both were extremely engaging. The kids were into it, and to be able to run it on the kind of through social media and not actually physically have to have somebody in the class was. We were discussing that earlier. It just makes accessibility so much easier, and silly not to jump on that bandwagon.
Yeah, as a communicator, I definitely think that post COVID-19, we're going to see a very blended world of virtual and in person. There are some things that you can't replace, that in person is best, but also the ability to connect people together, connect across provinces, connect across the country through virtual just is it's really powerful.
I agree.
Well, thanks a lot for talking to me today, Tristan. I appreciate that. If listeners wanted to learn more about you or connect with you as a chef, where would they be able to do that?
I guess best way to connect with me directly would either be through the high school. So I teach at Fellows High School in Pembroke, Ontario here. You can just contact the school directly and get a hold of me. Or my private business is From the Ground Up Culinary. So there's a website and everything on that where you can contact me directly.
Perfect. We'll be sure to include the links for that. So if anyone's interested, they can check out the show notes or our website and connect with you. So thanks a lot, Tristan. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Hello, this is your host, Jordan here again, thanking you for listening to that interview. And a huge thanks to Tristan for taking time out of his busy day to talk to me. Thank you for taking the time to download and listen to this show. I hope you stay subscribed to us anywhere you get podcasts, and stay tuned for future conversations that we're going to have here. If you're interested in learning more about what we do here at AgScape, you can visit us on the web at agscape.ca. That's agscape.ca. On our website, you can download resources, you can request teacher ambassador lessons, you can sign up for the Business of Food course. We have a whole bunch of resources for you there. So check us out and stay tuned. Thanks for listening.